struggle. The struggle bus scruff. It's the Mindstate Marketing Hour with Will Leach. He's our favorite author. He's a scientist, but he doesn't dress like one. He doesn't even have a clipboard. It's 4 signs you don't know your customers, 4 steps to plan to assess. I was struggling to say that correctly. Will, how are you doing, brother?
Hey, doing good, doing good. We got a new day and a new time today. What's up with that, Steve?
Yeah, I think things are happening. Summer's coming on. We got spring break. You went and did some tanning. You gonna go lay out on the beach, or you gonna lay on a tennis court? What are you gonna do this weekend,
We're
Will?
having. I'm going to a crawfish boil. So if any of you out there don't know the importance of going to a crawfish boil in the deep south, it's a big deal. So I'm going to a crawfish boil, and the reason why we didn't meet yesterday was, guys, I had my first presentation on stage in a long time. I guess I did Austin, but this is with a client. So I'm actually talking with clients. We did a 3-hour training workshop with a client here in Dallas. It was awesome. So I was in my element, but because of that, I was unable to make the show. So we are doing a special edition live Friday show of the Mindstate Marketing Hour.
Well, it's the Mindstate Marketing Hour. How to connect with your clients using science. And you were in your elephant yesterday, huh?
My element, but
Element.
yes, that's right. Now I got rid of that elephant a long time ago. You know how expensive they are to keep? It's crazy
Yeah.
how it takes. With the inflation today, you can't keep them.
No, everybody wants to talk about them because they're in the room. It's just awkward.
It is. It is. But it was great. Talked to a lot of great people.
It's the book with a new look, Marketing to Mind States. If you don't have this book and you're a marketer, you're walking around with one hand tied behind your back. You're in a, what do they call it? A butt kicking game with one leg. And if you read this book, then you would have 2 legs, because you would learn that what's wrong with marketing is most people approach marketing with a one size fits all perspective. But what does marketing to mind states help us understand is that most of our folks that are considering our solutions and making decisions approach it in a certain state of mind. And lo and behold, if you knew what that state of mind was, you would adjust your messaging to connect. They would understand that you get them, and they would feel safe. And you're way down the road because of this behavioral science thing. Will, you learned about behavioral science somewhere. You were walking through a forest and got hit in the head with a behavioral science branch.
Unfortunately, I wish it would have been that easy. Nope. I spent the better part of my entire career doing behavioral insights. And it was through that work, actually. I got to work at PepsiCo, and they invested a ton of money in me and technology to learn the science behind the best marketing campaigns out there. So I was lucky enough to have a lot of people who believed in me and wanted to change marketing. And so that's what I did for them. And that's what I'm trying to do for you out there.
So, marketing, it's really about conveying empathy. If you can, there's people that have sympathy, don't have sympathy, have empathy. I always hear that, especially when in a relationship, right? Understand what people are going through. And if you knew that, then they're approaching your solution not really. They care about the features. They use logic to justify their decision. But the truth is, they made an emotional decision. So today we're going to talk about 4 signs you don't know your customers as well as you think you do, and your brand is suffering. Oh, we're on that's called the not the sweet bucket, not sugar bucket. We're over on the vinegar bucket.
That's right. The other side of the bucket. Your brand suffering. That's right.
Brand suffering. Why? Where did this come from? I think there's a story behind this topic.
There is, as always. So the reason why I brought this up was that recently I've been running some Facebook ads to a brand new target. And the target are these specific agencies, marketing agencies, that I've been trying to, let them understand more about Mindstate marketing, behavioral science-based marketing, et cetera. And we talked a little bit about this last week with our very special guest, Sarah Levinger. And in doing those ads, I found that it was really, well, first off, those ads, my ads are not running really well right now. The metrics are not great. And so what I did was like, the minute you want to do with an ad is you say, okay, I'm on Facebook, I'm running these ads. I need to change the picture and I need to change some copy. And what I did, instead of just looking for something, a funnier piece of content or a funnier picture or maybe a new headline in my copy, I actually stopped, took a second. I said, just like you said, right, just a second ago, Steve, I said, do I really have empathy for this group? And I started realizing I may sympathize with that group, but I don't really have psychological empathy. And so I took a step back and I started thinking about 4 things. I was like, you know what? Here are 4 things that before I wrote any copy in my ad, I probably should have been able to nail first. And it's, sometimes the hardest thing to do as a consultant is consult in your own business. And so that's why I'm sharing with you. I am not doing well in my advertising with this group. And it's true. And I took a step back and I said, you know what? If I should be doing these steps, chances are you should be doing these steps too. If you're having problems bringing in new clients, because you may lack these 4 things. So why don't we just talk a little bit about those 4 questions you better have answered before you really get into writing up advertising.
So, Will, do you have to be like a sensitive guy or a sensitive girl in tune with their emotions to have empathy with your audience?
No, I don't think so, right? I think so. We talk about empathy, and I've said this a lot. There's a difference between, and you just said it, there's a difference between sympathy and empathy. And there I think there's a difference between empathy and psychological empathy. So we start saying you got to walk in the shoes of your customer. And I think that's an incredibly important thing to try to do. But even when you walk in those shoes, I think you better understand them at a psychological level. And most people do not naturally understand people at a psychological level. They understand the emotional level maybe, but they can't really articulate that very well. Your best creatives can. That's what makes them so damn good. So I think most brand managers are in the same boat. They came with an MBA out of, some university. They may have worked in an industry for a while. Then they found their way to another industry and they found their way to another industry. And then they got into a company where now they're doing, at least work in the same industry. And all of a sudden they are on a brand that is talking to women who have issues with wanting to eat healthier. And this is a guy who is 25 years old or 30 years old who has no idea what that feels like. But that person's job is to try to build empathy. So you can't walk in the shoes of somebody like that. I refuse to believe that you can. But you can understand them from a psychological level. So, hey, Steve, you may like this story. This happened to me. I won't tell you the name of the company, but it is a major feminine care manufacturer. And we were pitching business. And the night before, we're at the hotel, and this is stupid, remember? I looked at us, and it was 4 white guys that we were going to go pitch business to this feminine care manufacturer about taking over their marketing and their this major program. And I knew in that moment, I was like, you know what? We're not going to win this tomorrow. We're not going to win it. Doesn't matter how much science I had 4 white guys get to talk about feminine care, and I don't think they would take this very seriously. So I'm trying to basically, if you happen to be a white guy, you have to understand feminine care because that's your brand role. I'm going to give you some things to really try to build in that deep psychological empathy. Not necessarily feminine care, everybody. I'm going to do it on another topic. But yeah, it really happened to me. You ever been in that situation?
Well, yeah. So, I'm working with one of my clients. He's an age management doctor.
Mm-hmm.
He's got this awesome program utilizing peptides that help you lose weight. Okay, and so it helps your body. It's really, really awesome the way it does it. It's not a diet necessarily, but it's mostly targeted to women, and women have this conversation going on in their head about their weight. They're really hard on themselves, and it's impacted from society, whatever. But you're right. I'm oblivious to that. I can try to lean in and listen and talk and ask questions, but I think it really needs to come from hearing them talk about it and not from a leading conversation way. So it's we're designing messaging for it, but it's a similar thing. It's not feminine care, but it's still important.
It is important. So, I mean, you're not always going to be able to have the exact same experiences as your target market. That's helpful, but you're not going to. So, if you don't have that experience, if you're trying to sell, toys to young girls, and you're a male now, that's a tough thing for you to do. But there are some things that you can do to help you get better at it. So, yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. To build
Okay.
empathy.
So this, Will, I just giggle when we do these shows. I have fun with you on this, so I appreciate. It's like we may be the only guys here. I don't think so. I think there's a lot of people listening, but they enjoy it. We get a lot of feedback, but I just have fun anyway. Number one, oh, we got a thumbs up on that.
Hey, all right, there you go.
So
yeah, so the first thing is the question, or if you think you have like real empathy and you can't do this one thing, then you don't really have empathy. And this is, you can't boil your customer's aspirational goal into one succinct idea. And this honestly is probably perhaps the hardest thing to do. But I saw somebody do it yesterday, which I thought, this is why it came up. I started thinking about this today, and it came up. So yesterday what I did was I was talking about Dodge Charger. Remember when the Charger came back out? I guess probably they ran a Super Bowl ad about 5 years ago. It was huge, right? Mm-hmm. And what it does in this ad is it really just shows these men's close-up faces. They're not saying anything. They're just having close-up on these men. And in the background, there's all these comments like, I will throw my clothes in the laundry. I will let your friends talk about my friends. I will let you speak when I want to speak. I will, and just keep saying this. And it shows these guys. It's a really famous commercial. Look it up on YouTube. But I asked the audience, and this audience was for a totally different company, different industry. And I asked this audience, what is the key aspiration that these men have? Like, what was Dodge trying to do? And what aspirational goal were they trying to tap into? And this girl in that audience, she said that it was so fast. She got it so clearly. I thought, I was like, oh my gosh, if I was that clear, I could write incredible copy. I could write incredible content for this agency, target that I'm looking for. And she said, this person's aspirational goal is to feel, I wrote this down. I said, to feel free and independent from life's responsibilities. That's what she said. And my jaw dropped, because if you look at this commercial, it's talking about, it's a 30-second ad, and it's all these guys who are basically saying, I will do whatever you want me to do so I can drive the car I want to drive. And all of a sudden, the last 5 seconds is the Charger, is the engine, and the guy takes off in the Charger. And he's willing to just be marginalized, beat up into the ground so I can drive the car I want to. And she succinctly said, to feel free and independent from life's responsibilities. And I thought, man, that's the clearest articulation. If I handed that to you, Steve, my guess is you could take that into 5, 10, 15, 20 campaigns for the next 10 years if you understood your target that well. That their goal is to feel free and independent from life's responsibilities. She said it so succinctly, and I'm not saying that's easy, guys. That's incredibly hard to do, because I think the more knowledge we get, the more we want to show the knowledge that we have. Succinctly taking all that work into one sentence is arguably the hardest thing you can do. But if you do nail it, boy, it's so helpful. It's helpful in strategy and in copy.
You have to see, in that one sentence, you're trying to assemble the whole hero's journey. What's the desired transformation, the aspirational image, but what's the struggle? What's the emotion to not be able to cross that bridge? That's so hard. You have to back into it almost.
You do. And it takes iteration after iteration after iteration. Like, start somewhere. So try to write 4 lines that describe them, and then go down to 3, and then down to 2. And anything you can cut is probably worth it for you to cut. It really is, because when it comes down to it, the people's aspirational goals are generally just one big overlying theme. It really is. It doesn't, you don't have to talk about, I want to, in that Dodge commercial, you could say the aspirational goals, this guy, his aspirational goals are to get out of these meetings, to get out of life's responsibilities, like having children and having a job. So, because this guy really just wants to have fun. You can say all that stuff, and it's kind of true. But when you get it down to that one sentence, you can articulate how he feels about everything. And Dodge, that Charger is just one thing that he can use to really feel free and independent from responsibilities. You could do the same thing with alcohol. You could do so many different things with that same aspirational goal. You could market a lot of different things to them. It's hard to do, but boy, if you can nail it, like we said, it's just really helpful in everything you do.
There's a book I'm trying to think of it's like, but the common story themes.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a set of, I don't know if it's 22 or whatever.
Yeah. I got one called the 7 Basic Plots, and then there's another called the 22. There's like 22 basic plots. That's why I use both of those master plots. I think they're called. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, what I wonder, do we have the same thing in this domain where you have the same 22 master aspirational journeys, because I don't know, I'm trying to think of a movie that would align with that Dodge one.
Yeah, no, I got to know this 22. So I know if you guys do any archetype work, then the archetypes are almost always built upon either the 8 or the 22 master plots, right? However many you want to whatever author you want to think about following. You know what? That's an interesting question, Steve, because the idea is that the reason why there are these 22 master plots is that for centuries, people have used these plots and stories, and these stories always resonate. So the idea would be, why do they resonate? Well, maybe because they're telling you the story that resonates with your aspirations. I've never thought of it that way, but you could, or maybe that's it. Maybe really all the life's goals come down to these 22 because they've been reconfirmed again and again and again in every movie that you like, in any successful movie you like, in any successful book. It always taps into the same 22. Yeah.
Like Mr. Mom or something is what I'm thinking in that particular case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be, man. So if you can't do that, then you should be taking a step back, as I will be doing this weekend, to really start trying to go back through, because there's no sense in spending a bunch of money if you're not getting return, you're not getting people, because I'm not tapping into that aspirational goal yet.
So we ought to just think about what are the 22 plots there that your ads should address.
Yeah, and I'm just for a second, I got the book. We should probably tell readers how to what the book we're talking about. It's by Tobias. You can't even hear me. So this is really bad live show. But
no, I can hear you.
It's up here. I know it's up here. I just was referencing it not too long ago. I haven't see it because it's a little brown book, but it actually tells you the exact 22 master plots that you should be using. Oh, I don't know. I'm so stupid. I can't see it here.
Oh, I have it.
Oh, here it is. Master plots. So sorry guys, master plots. So it's called 20 master plots. I thought it was 22. It's 20 master plots by Ronald B. Tobias. That could be a good way, and maybe I'm going to keep this book out since it took me forever to find it, to think about maybe one of these master plots can really help me articulate that one succinct idea.
Yeah, because you're just trying to dial into what is the internal fear that they have, considering what solution you present them that would help them. Yeah, it would just relate to the way that they feel. It makes them feel when they're addressing this. Obviously, everyone's trying to nail their mind state of their marketing, but if they don't do this every day, they're not a scientist, they're not like you, then you know that their first draft is a beta version.
Yep, that's right.
But the learning from that exercise is huge, and it makes them a better candidate to work with you anyway. So,
yeah.
All right, number 2, you don't know the core desire they need fulfilled.
Yep. I hear this so often in every meeting I'm in. Like, we've got to get more emotional. We got to really understand the emotions behind our customer. And this week on LinkedIn, somebody wrote up this post and was talking about the importance of emotions and the importance of how important it is for you to identify the right emotion. And they go, it has to be one of these 7. And actually, I wrote back a little bit of snarkiness. The guy actually, we ended up being in the same place. I just didn't like how he wrote it. And I wrote back here, well, rather than just selecting one of these 7, why don't we actually go with the one that fits the core desire? And guys, there is a difference between an emotion and a desire. And I talk about this in my book. It's in chapter 5 of my book. But emotions, you could argue that there are hundreds of at least feelings, and there's a I'm not going to get into emotions versus feelings, but just imagine, there are let's just call them tens, dozens and dozens and dozens of different feelings you can use. And so this guy was like, well, you got to narrow it down. That's all. And I thought, you know what? No, you're focusing on the wrong thing. What you need to focus on is somebody's desire. Because when you understand their desire, then you know you can take out of 80 or 100 different emotions and you can narrow it down to something very small, like 3 different articulations of an emotion. And guys, there are only 9 desires. Motivational psychology is very clear on this. And so they're in my book. So if you don't know which of these 9, these desires most get your customer to feel, compelled to take action, then you can't write good marketing. So those 9, we talk about them all the time, are our desire for success, our desire for freedom, our desire for acceptance, our desire for mastery, our desire for control, our desire for captivation, our desire for status, our desire for care, and our desire for safety. And if you don't know which of those 9 you should be focusing in on, you should stop writing. Don't think about, I want people to be happy or surprised. How do you know unless you understand the desire? Because let's say if your customer desires to feel safe and you want to surprise them, that generally doesn't work on safety. It doesn't. I know it sounds, but it doesn't. It's not the right emotion. Are people going to be scared and they're going to hate it? No. Is it going to feel natural? No, it's not. So don't just sit there and think about, well, I'm going to narrow 100 different emotions down to 7 or 8. And I'm going to pick the one that I like. That's not important. What's important is you understand the desire of your customer and match the emotion to that desire. And the book actually helps you do that.
Yeah, that was huge when I read your book. I was like, oh my gosh. So most of my clients, they want to achieve. They're entrepreneurs. They started off on this journey. They don't need to know all the answers. They're determined. They know they're going to make mistakes, but bottom line, I'm going to make it through and I don't care. Somebody's going to, their knees are going to get scraped. Someone get a fat lip, but we're going for, so that's.
And what I love about what you just articulated is that you said the word, they're determined. That is an emotion. That's a feeling, guys. Now, if I didn't think that, if I didn't know that, you may go, I went to an ad, but you may look at some ad and people are smiling. It's not saying the ad is horrible, but I'm saying that guy doesn't feel joy and happy. That person feels determined, which is a core emotion that fits into the achievement desire, that desire for success. That's why this matters, because you see lots of cool creative that's funny creative and it may be caring creative, whatever. And all those things are interesting, but they're not going to tap into that desire. What you said was perfect, Steve. It's that if you understand that desire, you can look at those happy ads and go, you know what? I love that ad. Can we put more determination? Can we really speak to that determination? This guy feels every day trying to grow a small business and provide for his family. There's not a ton of joy and laughter. And well, I shouldn't say that. You're not always going to feel joy and laughter. You will feel determined every day.
Mm-hmm.
You will feel determined.
Yeah, you'll be able to make fun of yourself. You're going to, you don't feel like you're achieving most of the time when you are achieving, right? Because you just stumble and bumble, but you're just determined. And then I love how you either have a cautious or what's the other? Yeah, optimistic. And so, my folks are cautious, meaning that I've made a lot of mistakes. I'd like to avoid as many as possible. Do you have something to help me shortcut my learning curve? Keep me out of the ditch. And that's like, makes sense. And they feel like you understand them. They feel like you get them because why? You're providing something that complements what they can't put into words when they're asking you for help.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
So, did we cover number 3?
Number 3 is a fast one now.
Yeah.
It's number 3 is you're in trouble if you don't really know what they substitute when not buying from you. Here's an issue we all have as brands. No matter what brand you're working on, we tend to think of our competition are people who do the exact same things as we do. That's actually not true. They're not the number one competitor. The number one competitor to you is them not acting at all.
Mm-hmm.
That takes away sales from all of us all the time. So I'm not oftentimes comparing, Steve's agency to somebody else's agency. What I'm comparing oftentimes is Steve agency or not doing anything, saving my money, using that money on a vacation. So we tend to think of our competition in very extreme ways. So if I'm working on a brand, and I actually gave this example yesterday during one of my talks, and I own a pizza parlor. I may think about my competition as saying, you know what, I'm competing against all the other pizza places. So I got to compete against Detroit pizza, New York style pizza, cheap pizza, Domino's. And is that a competitor? Absolutely. It's absolutely your competitor. However, I'm going to tell you that there is another competitor. It's called all other restaurants, because you don't think of it that way, but whether you know it or not, when I sit on a Friday night, I don't first go to say, what pizza place do I want to go to? I first think to myself, what do I want to do tonight? What kind of food do I want to eat tonight? And so then I started comparing myself to, or if I'm a pizza place, you start thinking, I'm actually competing against every other restaurant around here. When you guys may say, oh, yeah, I get that. Not so fast. Not only are you competing against every other restaurant, but if you understood the aspirational goals of somebody, like at a functional level, Steve, I want yummy tasting pizza. That's I have a menu that has a lot of variety, so that when I go to the restaurant, that we can all eat as a family and not have complaints like, oh, I don't want that or whatever. That's what I'm looking for at a functional goals level. So I better have that. But really, what I'm really looking for, Steve, is a moment of connection with my family. And if I can avoid having a menu that's too short or too small where I can't get Nick to eat, or if I can avoid that it's so pricey that I can't afford to take us all out, what I'm really looking for in wherever I go on a Friday night is to have a moment of just like, connection with my family. And now, if you're providing that to me, I may want pizza. I'm sorry, I may want Mexican food, but I'm going to your pizza place. I may want Chinese food. I'm going to your pizza place. I may want to get coffee. I'm going to your pizza place. Why? Because you're not giving me pizza. You're giving this moment of connection. You must understand you're in close competitors, but also what you're really competing against. And then in that case, when I understand those aspirational goals we talked about before, your aspirations, I can now think of I have such a larger target to hit now, because now I'm trying to pull people in from coffee. I'm trying to pull people in from Chinese food. I'm trying to pull in people from going out to a movie. Like, that's really what I'm trying to compete against. And it's much broader. I have more people who are within my sphere of influence if I think of my competition differently. So think about your competition, but really, guys, the number one competition you have is them not acting in the first place.
You're explaining a ritual. You have a little family ritual, and it's deeper. It's about these memories and time of being a family. And so, I've noticed that I'll make decisions on where to eat on whether it will complement that goal that you're talking about. Okay. So if you want to connect with your family, you're not necessarily going to go to the noisiest place in the world.
Yep.
You're going to go somewhere that maybe knows your name. They know you like to sit over there. That's why all of a sudden you get all these, you do go to the same place often, because they know your name, to like that cheer song.
You feel comfortable there. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you feel comfortable? Because you feel safe there. You always go back to
Mm-hmm.
that. You really go down to the primal brain a lot. You're like, because you feel safe, because they get you. You feel safe. You know what to expect. That's why it's so important to do this. And like I said, guys, if you don't understand that's really what you're competing against, then you're never going to write great copy. You're just not going to, because you're going to think you're battling other people on the quality of your cheese, and you're not. The cheese is not bringing people into your restaurant. It's above and beyond that. It's above and beyond that.
It's a minimal. You should have great cheese, because doesn't everybody, right?
Doesn't everybody? Doesn't everybody say they are?
Yeah.
Oh, we got the best cheese. We get ours. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess. Yeah. That's cool. I'll try
Big
you out.
whoop. Yeah. Funny. So your customer persona is only a description of the person.
Yeah, and we talk about customer personas, and I think a lot of us out there, we start with a persona in mind, and maybe you have just a demographic persona out there, guys. Like, oh, I talk to millennial moms. Okay, cool. Other people like, mine are deeper than that. I have some attitudes. My millennial moms are on a budget constraint. They feel like that they want to have more variety in their life. Okay, that's even better. That's nothing wrong with that. But when you start off your persona, if you start off your persona and it says, female, age, whatever, you're in the wrong place. You should not be starting your persona on anything about somebody's demographics. You just shouldn't. It's embarrassing. You should be starting your personas with something around their aspirational goal, their desire. If you're starting your persona with that level of depth, then you're not in a good place to really write great copy. We, just like Steve, you said on the outset, right? You said that we're not always the same person, and we're not. We have different mind states throughout the day. Sometimes I'm in a very protective mind state. Other times I'm in a very achievement type of mind state. If you start off your persona on me saying Will Leach is a 48-year-old white male, you have lost me, because I'm so much more than that. And if that's how your first initial cut of my data is that, you're already started at the wrong place. So you have to start off with that mind state somebody's in when they're thinking about your category, whatever that category is. And then if you want to go in, because I know you have to I do advertising too. I have to go and find these people so you can get into all these different attitudinal and demographic characteristics. But you don't want to start there. If you already have your persona, it's written in that way. I encourage you to restart your persona with the mind state, the core desire, the aspirational goals. Start there and then work your way into the demographics.
Unless it's feminine products.
Unless it's then if you have 4 white guys, you know you're going to land the deal. It was so embarrassing. So embarrassing.
So you guys had been preparing and thinking about it, and then you're getting ready to go, and then that dawns on you?
Steve, we don't know what we're doing. We're scientists. We had 3 out of 4 of us were scientists. So we went in there, and we pitched, and I thought that night before, I thought, we're going to look so stupid, and we did. Funny thing is, the brand manager was a guy.
Yeah. So there you go. The lesson is that the brand could be really disconnected, not just the marketing team.
Hey,
right?
you rotate people in brands all the time, and there is something to be said for a guy who can sell feminine hygiene. I think it's not an easy task, and I'm sure that they did great. But I realized that when we had not one female in that room, it's such a rookie mistake. It's such a rookie mistake. We didn't know what we were doing. So and we didn't get the job. We didn't get the job. By the way.
Is there not a story that it was a man that invented the feminine napkin?
Oh, I don't know.
I think I read that somewhere that it was. Anyway, that's funny.
Yeah.
So guess what time it is?
What time is this, Dave?
This is a great conversation. We should have more like this. I really enjoyed this. So it's time to watch Will dance. We got some music coming in. We're going to watch him dance. We got some questions. All right, Will. So we're going to throw these pitches. We'll see if you can knock it out of the park. Cool. Baseball theme, right? Do you go watch the Rangers?
Season. What's that?
Do you ever go watch the Rangers?
Yeah, I actually go watch it, but boy, if you're a Ranger fan, it's not looking good already. We just started the season. It's already looking really, really bad. So, but yeah, I'll go see them when I can, especially in the indoor stadium. No more sweating, so that's great.
Will, what do you think is the worst part about working in sales?
Wow. What do I think is the worst part about working in sales? That I feel like I have to sell. I read this article one time that said salespeople have the lowest self-esteem of all people. Isn't that crazy? Because most people are, I thought anyways, but no, because most salespeople think that their job is to sell. Your job is to never sell anything. If your job as a salesperson is to understand where that person currently is, understand where they want to be in the future, and figure out if and only if you should sell a product that can help them get there if it actually works, right? So that's all your job is to do, is show them that you can help them get to a better, more aspirational life. If you think of your job like that, kind of like a doctor, then you're never going to sell. So the worst part about it is feeling like you have to sell. Like, I got to make that sale. It's the worst part about it also.
Feel like a doctor, huh? Like you're going in and do what a doctor does, like ask questions. Yep. Let's make a diagnosis, but I have to interview you first, right?
And if I have a solution, great. If I don't have a solution, I shouldn't say, man, deep down inside, this guy needs surgery. Let me give him a prescription. Like, you don't do that. And if you don't do that, you won't feel like you're selling at all. You're like, here's an option for you. I think I can help you. Or do that person the benefit of saying, I don't really have anything for you. That's awesome. That's how you should do.
What advice, Will, can you give someone who's wanting to start their own business?
I give this advice a lot. If you want to start your own business, find your passion, whatever that passion is. Mine was behavioral science. Then do that same thing again. Find another passion, which for me happened to be marketing. I loved marketing before I loved behavioral science, but I love behavioral science more. And then marry 2 passions. If you can marry any 2 passions, you got to marry at least 2. If you pull those into one concept, one idea, you're going to be successful. I guarantee it. Because you're never going to want to stop working because you love this stuff so much. You're passionate. It's going to make you differentiated. So don't try to look for a place in the marketplace like, oh, people need a new doorknob, so I'm going to go invent a new doorknob. What you want to do is be passionate about doorknobs and be passionate about letting people into rooms. If you can put these things together, you're going to make an awesome doorknob that is so wickedly great and successful that you're going to be a billionaire. Start with your passions before you use the place where you can make money, and you're going to be in a better place.
That's funny. You want to let people in the room. Be inclusive.
Steve, I make these things up on the fly, so I don't know where I got the doorknob at all. I don't know how I got to the doorknob. I'm trying to think, how did the doorknob come up to my mind? But I did.
You could have said window. I want people to see the world.
It would make more sense, but I said doorknob for some reason.
How do you convince businesses that they need to do behavioral research when they normally don't do this type of thing? That's scary if you're not a scientist.
I bet I know who did this. I have a guy in my group. I have a group called the Mindstate Marketing Society. I have a gentleman who's overseas. He may be on this right now. And he's asking me this because he lives in a country where they just don't invest. The businesses in this country don't invest in behavioral science research. And so he's like, what do I do? Like, how do I get people to know that understanding behavioral science is important to drive your business because they don't know about the science and they don't think it's important? Here's what you have to do. I've said this before. One is you have to figure out some sort of a fact or a proof point that makes somebody take notice first, that there could be an issue. I recently came across one that says 85% of all business data is unstructured, meaning that it's all just data that needs to be collected and analyzed. It's unstructured data. It's like people's words, it's the conversations they have about your brand, it's the customer service agent talking about your brand. So that says that 85% of everything you know about your company, you don't really know. If you're not in the unstructured data space, you don't really know. That right there is a data point. People go, whoa, well, my gosh, I could be missing out on 85% of all the knowledge my company has access to. Yes. The second logical question is, if you want to understand that 85%, then it's behavioral science. These are unstructured data, people's conversations. So if you want to understand what the meaning is behind somebody's conversation, you have to understand behavioral science. I don't know if that's your data point, guys. I do know you need to have a data point that sparks somebody's interest. People make 35,000 decisions every single day. People see 10,000 advertisements every single day. Every day, your finger scrolls the length of the Statue of Liberty. There's a data point that gets people to go, whoa, and they say, the ramifications are what? And if that ramification is that you better understand human behavior, behavioral science is a great way to start understanding human behavior. So start with the data point, figure out the way where it leans in on behavioral science.
Excellent. Well, so let's say that I'm a marketing director. I'm in charge of my marketing for my company, but, and I've read your book, but, I'm a little bit insecure about whether I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
Would you look over my shoulder? Do you have a little something that someone could reach out and go, hey, would you help me study my stuff?
I do. So I have this all the time where the first step is the hardest step. My first step was a $70 experiment. I talk about it in my book, $70. So you may have a point where you're like, I want it. I've read the book. I'm interested, but I just want somebody to kind of, like you said, Steve, look over my shoulder as I'm doing it. So do me a favor. Go to mindstategroup.com, and on that page, you're going to see red boxes that says, book a call with me. If you book a call with me, we're going to get on a quick call and we're going to talk really quickly about where you are, kind of like the doctor frame we just talked about, and where you want to go. And then maybe I can help you. If I can help you, we have very simple programs where I can literally work with you weekly on one specific problem very inexpensively, so you can get a taste for behavioral science. You can understand how to actually apply the Mindstate model to your business. It's the simplest, easiest way to kind of get your feet into the water. So go to mindstategroup.com and you can learn more about that.
Yeah, excellent. Because, when I realized, the achievement mind state was important, then the cautious positioning or how do you call it? The cautious. Yeah. And then, but I took a stab at the content, but to have you look it over was like really, really huge for me.
Yeah, so, I've done it my whole life, right? Well, I've done it for the last 13 years. Take advantage of that, guys. Take advantage of that.
All right, 4 signs that you don't know your customers as well as you do. You could be 4 guys standing outside, getting ready to go in and do a pitch on a feminine product brand, and realize I don't know my
You better
I
bring
don't
the
know my
ring.
audience. Yeah, so
That's right. You're not qualified. You're not. Yeah.
Will, we're going to be off for a couple of weeks here in the next couple of weeks, right?
We're going to try to do this show once every 2 weeks. So next week, because it's getting to travel time again, summertime. So we're going to start having the show every other week. So be on the lookout for dates and times. We're going to try to keep it consistent on Thursdays, but be on the lookout for those details on LinkedIn or on YouTube. If you're following us on YouTube or on my Facebook group, Mindstate Marketing Society. And we're maybe even bringing some more guest speakers and bring in some entrepreneurs and some small businesses to tell us their journey and what are they learning about using behavioral science to drive their business forward.
That's right. And we've got a podcast. Be sure to go subscribe and listen on Stitcher, iHeart, Buzzsprout, Spotify, or you can subscribe to the Mindstate channel on YouTube. I'm Steve Brown, your co-host. This is Will Leach. He's the author. He's a scientist, marketing mind states. Will, have a great weekend. We'll see you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Steve.
And that's an awkward time when I push.